There's a reason high school isn't exactly the most magical time in most people's lives. For me, it was especially awkward. I'm a classic nerd, glasses, love for comic books, shy around everyone. It's not that I minded being a nerd, in fact, I liked it. I had my small group of friends, I aced all my classes, and I spent my weekends playing Dungeons & Dragons. But that didn't mean high school was easy. Being gay didn't make things any simpler either. It wasn't like anyone bullied me for it. I wasn't out to everyone, only to my close friends. But the sense of being different, of always having to hide a part of myself, hung over me like a shadow. Especially when it came to him. Tyler Dawson, the most popular guy in school. The guy who walked through the hallways with his group of friends, all laughing and high-fiving, while the rest of us watched from the sidelines. He was the star quarterback, the guy everyone wanted to be, and most importantly, the guy everyone wanted to date. And for some inexplicable reason, I had a crush on him. It wasn't just that he was good looking though, let's be honest, he was ridiculously handsome, but there was something about him. Something about the way he carried himself, the way he smiled at people, the way he seemed so effortlessly confident. Of course, there was no way in the world Tyler Dawson even knew I existed. I was just some nerdy guy in the background, sitting in the front row of all his classes, trying not to be noticed. But that didn't stop me from daydreaming about him. It was silly, I knew that. Tyler was straight. He had a girlfriend, after all, a cheerleader named Ashley, who was as perfect and popular as he was. But that didn't stop the tiny flicker of hope that lived somewhere deep inside me. It was a Tuesday, just an ordinary day. I was sitting in the cafeteria with my friends, discussing our next Dungeons & Dragons session, when I saw Tyler walk in. He was surrounded by his usual crowd, laughing about something I couldn't quite hear. "Earth to James," my friend Eric said, waving his hand in front of my face. You've been staring at him for like a solid minute. I blinked, tearing my gaze away from Tyler and looking at Eric, who was smirking at me. I wasn't staring, I muttered, feeling my face heat up. Sure, Eric teased, nudging me with his elbow. Everyone knows you got a thing for Dawson. I glared at him. No, I don't. Right, Eric said, rolling his eyes. Look, I get it. He's like everyone's crush. But you might want to be a bit more subtle about it. I sighed, knowing he was right. It wasn't like I could hide the fact that I was into Tyler, but that didn't mean I wanted to make it obvious. Don't worry, man, Eric said, his voice softening. He straightened, out of reach. No point torturing yourself. I nodded, trying to brush it off, but deep down the truth stung. Tyler Dawson was straight, and I was just some nerdy gay guy with a hopeless crush. That afternoon, I was at my locker putting away my textbooks when I felt someone standing behind me. At first, I didn't think anything of it. People were always passing by, though when I turned around, I nearly dropped my books. It was Tyler. Hey, James, right? He said, flashing me that signature easygoing smile. I froze, my mind racing. How did he know my name? Why was he talking to me? This had to be a joke. Yeah, I managed to stammer, my heart pounding. Tyler nodded, leaning casually against the lockers. I was wondering, do you think you could help me out with something? I blinked, trying to make sense of what was happening. Tyler Dawson, the most popular guy in school, was asking me for help? With what? I asked, genuinely confused. He rubbed the back of his neck, looking a little embarrassed. Math. I haven't been doing too great in Mr. Lopez's class, and I heard you're kind of the go-to guy for that. I stared at him, my brain struggling to catch up. Tyler Dawson wanted me to tutor him in math? Sure, I blurted out before I could stop myself. Yeah, I can help you. Tyler grinned, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. Awesome. Thanks, man. I'll owe you one, he said, giving me a quick nod before walking away. As soon as he was out of sight, I leaned against my locker, my heart still racing. Had that really just happened? Had Tyler Dawson, the most popular guy in school, just asked me for help? The next few days were a blur of disbelief. I kept replaying my conversation with Tyler over and over again in my head, trying to convince myself it wasn't some weird dream. But it was real. He had actually asked me for help, and I had said yes. We arranged to meet up after school on Friday for our first tutoring session. I was nervous, I was terrified. What was I even supposed to say to him? Tyler Dawson wasn't just some guy. He was Tyler Dawson. What if he realized I was just a nerdy nobody and bailed halfway through? But when Friday afternoon rolled around and I found myself sitting at a table in the library, waiting for him, I realized there was no turning back. I was staring at my math textbook trying to calm my nerves when I heard someone sit down next to me. I looked up and there he was, Tyler, with that same easygoing smile on his face. "Hey," he said, setting his backpack down. "Thanks again for helping me out." "No problem," I replied, hoping I didn't sound as nervous as I felt. We spent the next hour going over math problems, and to my surprise, Tyler was actually pretty focused. He wasn't a stereotypical jock I had imagined him to be. He asked questions, listened to my explanations, and even cracked a few jokes that made me laugh. It was easy. Being around him was surprisingly easy. By the end of the session, I felt more relaxed than I had in days. "You're pretty good at this," Tyler said as we packed up our things. "Way better than Mr. Lopez." I chuckled, shaking my head. "I doubt that, but thanks." Tyler slung his backpack over his shoulder, glancing at me with a grin. "Seriously, though, you saved me. I owe you one." As we walked out of the library together, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of connection between us. Tyler Dawson, the guy I had always seen as untouchable, unreachable, was actually just a guy. A guy who wasn't all that different from me. For the next few weeks, Tyler and I continued to meet up after school for tutoring sessions. At first, I was still nervous around him, but the more time we spent together, the more comfortable I became. He was funny, smart, and not at all like the version of him I had built up in my head. We started talking about things outside of math school life, and even stuff that had nothing to do with academics. He told me about the pressure of being the school's star quarterback, about how sometimes he felt like everyone expected him to be perfect all the time. "I get it," he said one afternoon, leaning back in his chair as we sat in the library. "People look at me, and they think they know who I am. But it's not that simple, you know." I nodded, understanding more than I had expected. "Yeah, I get that. People always think I'm just the nerdy kid who's good at school. They don't bother looking past that." Tyler looked at me, his expression thoughtful. "I think there's more to you than that, James." I felt my heart skip a beat at his words, but I tried to play it cool. "Thanks," I muttered, feeling a little flustered. As the weeks went by, some things started to change between us. It wasn't just about math anymore. We were becoming friends, real friends. And that tiny flicker of hope I had always carried inside me, it started to grow. The day it happened, it was completely unexpected. We had just finished another tutoring session, and we were walking out of the library together. The sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the school grounds, and there was this quiet stillness in the air. We stopped by the entrance, and Tyler turned to me, his expression serious. "Hey, James, I've been thinking." I raised an eyebrow, curious. "About what?" Tyler hesitated for a moment, then took a step closer to me. "I don't know why, but I feel like I can talk to you about stuff I can't tell anyone else." My heart started racing. Was this actually happening? Was Tyler Dawson, the most popular guy in school, opening up to me? "Like what?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Tyler looked out at the ground, his jaw clenched, like he was struggling to find the right words. "I don't know, man. Just everything. The pressure. The expectations. Sometimes I feel like I'm just going through the motions, you know?" I nodded, my chest tightening at the vulnerability in his voice. I said softly. "It's hard when everyone has this idea of who you're supposed to be." For a moment, neither of us said anything. We just stood there, the air thick with unspoken tension. And then, before I could stop myself, I leaned in and kissed him. The moment my lips touched his, I panicked. I had kissed Tyler Dawson, the most popular guy in school. My heart was racing and my mind was screaming at me to pull away, to run, to do anything other than what I'd just done. But I couldn't move. I was frozen, waiting for him to react. For what felt like an eternity, Tyler didn't move. He just stood there, his body tense, his lips pressed against mine. I couldn't tell if he was shocked, confused, or angry. But then, slowly, he pulled back, his eyes wide with surprise. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but no words came out. What was I supposed to say? How could I explain why I had kissed him? I hadn't even thought about it. It had just happened. Tyler stared at me, his expression unreadable. For a moment, I thought he was going to yell at me or worse, just walk away without saying a word. But instead, he stayed there, his hands clenched at his sides, his jaw tight. James, he started, his voice low. What was that? I swallowed hard, feeling my stomach twist with anxiety. I don't know, I stammered, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, Tyler shook his head, cutting me off. I'm not mad, he said quietly. I wasn't expecting that. I blinked, my heart pounding in my chest. He wasn't mad? What did that even mean? I'm sorry, I repeated, feeling like an idiot. I didn't mean to. It's okay, Tyler interrupted, his voice still soft. I just need a minute. He took a step back, running a hand through his hair. For a moment, we just stood there in awkward silence, neither of us knowing what to say. I could feel the tension between us thick and heavy, and I had no idea how to break it. Look, Tyler said after a long pause, his voice strained. I don't know what this is. I don't know what I'm feeling right now. But I don't hate you for it. I just need some time to figure this out. I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and confusion. At least he wasn't angry. But that didn't change the fact that I had crossed a line I never should have crossed. I'll see you later, Tyler muttered, turning to leave. As I watched him walk away, 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind. Had I just ruined everything? Had I completely destroyed whatever fragile connection we had built? And more importantly, did Tyler feel something for me too? That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the kiss over and over in my head, trying to make sense of it all. Why had I done it? What had I expected to happen? And what was Tyler thinking now? The next day at school, I avoided Tyler like the plague. I wasn't ready to face him, not after what had happened. Part of me was terrified that he would tell everyone what I had done, that he would laugh about it with his friends, or worse, spread rumors about me. But when I saw him in the hallway between classes, he didn't even look my way. He acted like nothing had happened, like I didn't even exist. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. Later that afternoon, I was sitting in the library staring blankly at my textbook when someone slid into the seat across from me. I looked up, and my heart skipped a beat when I saw Tyler sitting there, his expression serious. Hey, he said quietly. Hey, I replied, my voice shaky. We sat there in awkward silence for a moment, neither of us knowing how to start. I've been thinking, Tyler finally said, his eyes focused on the table. About yesterday. About the kiss. My stomach twisted with anxiety, but I forced myself to stay calm. I had to hear him out, no matter how scared I was of what he might say. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel, Tyler admitted, his voice low. I've never thought about guys like that before. But when you kissed me, it didn't feel wrong. I stared at him, my heart pounding in my chest. What was he saying? Tyler rubbed the back of his neck, clearly struggling to find the right words. I'm not saying I know what this means, he continued, his voice hesitant. But I know I don't want to lose you as a friend. And I know I don't want to pretend like nothing happened. I swallowed hard, feeling a mix of relief and confusion. So you didn't hate me. That was a start. But where did that leave us? I don't know what to say, I admitted, my voice trembling. I didn't mean to mess things up. I like you, Tyler. I've liked you for a long time. And yesterday, I don't know, I couldn't stop myself. Tyler nodded, his eyes still focused on the table. I get it, he said softly. I just don't know if I can feel the same way. His words stung, but I couldn't blame him. He was confused, and I couldn't expect him to just magically figure out his feelings overnight. I don't want to make things harder for you, I said quietly. If this is too much, we can just pretend it never happened. Tyler finally looked up at me, his expression conflicted. I don't want to pretend, he said firmly. I don't know what this is yet, but I want to figure it out. I want to understand. I nodded, feeling a strange mix of hope and uncertainty. Okay, I whispered. Let's figure it out. The days that followed were confusing, to say the least. Tyler and I started spending more time together, but things were different now. There was this unspoken tension between us, a tension that neither of us knew how to deal with. We were still friends, but there was something more. There's something we were both too scared to address. It was like we were standing on the edge of something, both of us afraid to take the next step. It was Tyler's idea to hang out that Friday. He texted me after school asking if I wanted to come over and watch a movie. I hesitated at first, unsure if spending time alone with him was a good idea after everything that had happened. But part of me wanted to see him, wanted to figure out what was going on between us. So I said yes. When I arrived at Tyler's house, he greeted me with his usual easygoing smile, but there was a nervous energy between us. We settled on his couch, flipping through Netflix until we landed on some random action movie. For the first half of the movie, we sat in awkward silence, neither of us really paying attention to the screen. About halfway through, Tyler reached for the remote and paused the movie. I looked over at him, confused. "I can't stop thinking about it," he said quietly, his eyes focused on the floor. "About what?" I asked, my heart racing. Tyler looked up at me, his expression serious. "The kiss." I froze, my mind racing. What was he trying to say? "I've been thinking about it a lot," he continued, his voice low. "And I think I liked it." My breath caught in my throat, and I felt my heart skip a beat. "I don't know what that means," Tyler said, his voice trembling slightly. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. But I don't want to keep pretending like it didn't happen. I don't want to keep pretending that I don't feel something." I stared at him, my mind spinning. Was this really happening? Was Tyler Dawson, the most popular guy in school, actually telling me that he felt something for me? "What are you saying?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Tyler took a deep breath, his eyes locking onto mine. "I'm saying that I want to see where this goes," he said softly. "I don't know what this is yet, but I know I want to figure it out with you." My heart felt like it was going to explode. This was everything I had wanted, everything I had hoped for, but I was still scared. What if this didn't work? What if I got hurt? But then I looked at Tyler, really looked at him, and I realized that maybe it was worth the risk. "Okay," I whispered. "Let's figure it out." And this time when I kissed him, it felt right.